Purple Daily is daily Vikings entertainment. We just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die.
I will ride with this group.
Seriously, man. Please.
And away we go.
And away we do go. It is Combine Week. It's Purple Access. It is a show that's going to be full of very topical Vikings discussion with my buddy Chip Scoggins, Star Tribune sports columnist. And Chipper, let's just start here. So I was thinking about this last night. I got a question for you because we've covered the Vikings for a long time, and we covered this particular event together. In my opinion, I do not remember the Vikings telegraphing a move. Like they have basically telegraphed what their intention is with Darnold, McCarthy, the hope of franchise tagging Sam if they can to trade him. It is the most telegraphed move, I think, since the 2009 draft, when for the only time that we covered the team together, we left the Spielman press conference before that draft and said, if Percy Harvin's there, they are taking him. And like, we didn't question that. He was available. They took him. Ordinarily, there's like some subterfuge and stuff. Mm-hmm. In this case, unless you disagree with me, in this case, I think it's so clear what the Vikings now, if they can make it or not, I don't know, like with the franchise tag and then trade Sam. But to me, this is just, they're literally laying it out that McCarthy's the guy, Darnold's not the guy, and that they would prefer to tag and trade him. But, you know, that's not a given that they can.
Yeah, I the fact that Kevin O'Connell at his media briefing there at the Combine, I thought he laid it out in terms of McCarthy, his rehab, being where he wants to be available, at OTAs, that he's on kind of a trajectory there. The fact that he talked about how much he gained by, I think someone, it might have been Courtney, I couldn't tell, but asked him about the virtual reality training that he did last year and all the mental reps and how they basically tried to simulate as best they can him as if he was playing without getting being on the field. So, I mean, obviously complimentary of Sam and what was the quote that O'Connell said that really jumped out to me? I think he said, I think the NFL saw that he can play and that he takes a lot of pride in being that. So it's like, hey, NFL, you saw it. You saw that this guy can play. We're open for business here if you want to trade for him. And it was interesting when he was talking about the quarterback room, how he went out of his way he's like, I want to talk about Daniel Jones too and what they gleaned from that. So, do you franchise him and trade him at this point and try to get more picks? That would not surprise me, but I fully expect that the job is going to be JJ McCarthy's if he's assuming everything continues to progress health-wise as it has to this point.
Do you think that they are going to be, because the deadline to decide on a franchise tag is March 4th. This is the week of the Combine to like deduct how much business they can possibly do. Yeah. You think at the end of the day that they do franchise him and trade him? Because this is a sport where that's not the norm. Like it's been done before, but it's not like basketball or, a sign and trade. It certainly would be a little bit more abnormal to get that done in this league, especially with the quarterback, I think.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it's 50-50. I don't know. Obviously, they're going to spend this week talking to as many quarterback teams that need quarterbacks as possible to kind of get a sense of what they think about him and would they be willing to take part in that. So I don't know. We talked last week about what Darnold's value will be and what, kind of that contract would look like in both in terms and dollars. So I'm sure there's a lot of conversations going on in Indy late at night at steak shops and bars with
St. Elmo's, you think?
Yeah, St. Elmo's, the shrimp cocktail. Because they need to leave Indy with a pretty good idea if that would work, right? You can't come back and be like, well, we think it might. No, you need to know, okay, is there somebody willing to do this? So
right.
I don't know. You look around at, we went through the list of free agent quarterbacks last year. And I mean, I saw Atlanta GM, what he said, their intentions are to keep. No, it's not.
What a mess.
So I know. So maybe, I don't know, maybe, but if you don't, then you just, you wish them luck and you move on. I don't see a scenario where you pay him for a $25 million, $30 million contract for 2 years. I don't think that's going to be part of the equation. I think it's either franchise trade or just move on.
Yeah, O'Connell has said nothing. There is nothing I've heard from any Vikings official besides posturing to indicate that, like O'Connell is talking about Sam in the past tense. Every time he's asked about him, I was proud to be part of his journey. I was there's no, this is my part about the telegraphing. Yeah, they're not coming out and saying he's done here, but there's nothing that they're saying that leads you to believe, oh, he's going to come back for a year or two. So that's the thing that strikes me. Now, on the franchise tag, one is I'm with you. You have to leave Indy on Sunday or Monday of next week with a clear cut, this is what we can do or not do. The other thing is you almost need, and this is where it probably gets dicey. One, you need Sam Darnold to play along, because if he says, if you trade me to Pittsburgh, I ain't signing a long-term contract there, then the Steelers are out because they're not going to take him for a 1-year tag fee. The other fly in the ointment, Chipper, as far as I'm concerned too, though, now Matthew Stafford. So if Stafford leaves the Rams, it opens up the Rams for Darnold. But the problem is there are teams that are I think there's teams that are interested in Darnold that now have a wandering eye towards Stafford possibly. And so I think it makes it a little bit more difficult to say that clear cut the Vikings have the premium quarterback perhaps on the market, because if Stafford, I would take him for a year before Darnold. So it gets a little bit more complicated, I think.
Yeah. If Stafford truly is available, and that's all the, hurdles you got to clear there. But if you're just ranking them, like he's one, right? Where do you put Cousins and Aaron Rodgers?
Oh boy. Well, Aaron, I don't put very high at all just because of the age and injury.
I mean, he's a 1 year at best, and I don't even think it's a 1 year for me.
I think Kirk is a perfect fit in Cleveland. Back with Stefanski, cheap contract. But like I'm not, if I am the Raiders, for instance, who are trying to fill the void at quarterback, I'm not signing Kirk to a contract more than a year.
No, I mean he might be a year-to-year guy too now at this point.
And Rodgers is for sure.
But Stafford, what is he, a year or two guy? I mean, he's got maybe 2 years?
2. Yep.
So if you're, he could be the bridge, a very good bridge, but so, it is, it's fascinating to kind of think about. I gotta imagine with if you're the Vikings, what is it, 5 to 7 teams you're really zeroing in on with Darnold that you're trying to gauge in? I mean, is it more than that?
No, it'd be less, I think.
Raiders,
Pittsburgh, the Raiders,
Cleveland,
Tennessee, perhaps.
No, Cleveland, their financial situation such
they can't take the contract.
They can't take the contract. Yeah.
Titans, if the Titans aren't going to draft a quarterback first or trade out, it'd be the Titans. It would be the Raiders for sure. It would be Pittsburgh for sure.
Like I don't think you're not talking to the Jets.
No, and I also do not.
Darnold would say no to that probably. He
ain't going to the Giants either. He's not going back now. If the Rams lose Stafford, that becomes a fairly attractive opportunity. But the Giants and Jets, as far as I'm concerned, are non-starters completely.
But if you're the Rams and you look at that young team and that young defense, isn't the window still open for them?
Well, I think
they were right there in the chance to get to. What's that?
I agree. I think they're playing chicken with him. I think Stafford and the Rams are playing chicken with each other, but I think that they're not going to part company.
I mean, you look at them, they weren't that far away from being in the NFC Championship game. Like, why would you, especially with the young defense, I don't know what, I mean, I know it's all dollars and cents, but their window is open. So I don't know. I'd want to be starting over at quarterback just yet. So, but yeah, so a handful, 5 teams that you're really drumming up the market, drumming up Darnold, and because ideally, if you could do that and get an extra, would it be a 3rd round pick, 2nd round? What would that if you?
It'd be a 3rd round pick, ideally, probably.
Yeah.
I don't think you get a 2nd, but I think you could get a 3rd. And if he signs elsewhere and has a good year, you will get a 3rd round compensatory pick in 2026.
Correct. So I mean, if you can do that and get more picks, I mean, yeah, but man, you got to know darn well that it's gonna, it's gonna come through. So, but I agree with you. I didn't think about it the way you did it in terms of O'Connell using almost past tense, but that one thing where he said he's shown the NFL that he can play.
Yeah.
It's almost like the experiment worked.
Yeah.
Look at me.
Look at what I did.
The experiment worked. And he said, he said, I'm proud to be part of that journey with him. It's like, they showed that he can play, like that. They took a guy who was, on a damaged goods or a damaged reputation around the league, and he had now they have to get past those other 2 games, those last 2 games when they're that's what teams have to come to grips with. But the way he talked about JJ and how anxious he is to be part of the OTAs and being, I know people were talking about his weight is back up, so that was, that's come out. So I think they know what they want to do. They just have to leave Indy feeling confident that that plan is going to work.
Yeah. Well, and I think, in a perfect world, they do franchise him and trade him. I keep coming back to, that would be great. I don't know it's possible. I told Phil and Dex this, and I do think so. I do think that Sam is going to get paid. Like, I think he's going to make a decent salary into the 40s perhaps. But here's the thing is, I think those last 2 games hurt him much more on the trade front. So like, if I'm a team, I don't know, I'm giving you a 3rd round pick. I might pay him 40, but I don't know, I'm going to give you if he had succeed, like let's say they lost those last 2 games, but he plays extremely well. I think the franchise and trade thing makes a little bit more sense to teams. I don't know I'm going to give you a 3rd round pick for a guy who I still have questions about. But the thing about it, Chipper, is quarterbacks are just, and it makes no sense at times, they're being paid. So I'm sure they get paid something.
Go through the kind of the timeline, how that works. If they do it, I mean, they've worked out a deal with another team that they'll know what they're going to sign him to with that.
Correct. That's where he has to play along.
That's where he has to say, and I would think of the teams we mentioned, because you're talking about, if it's going to be a multi-year deal at some pretty big money, I can't imagine he's going to turn that down or would say no, right?
Right.
That, because then you're just going to have to try to get on the open market for somebody.
But if he says, I only want to play for one team, for instance.
Yeah,
then that bidding war is done.
Then it's done. Then you just release.
If you're Pittsburgh and you want him, and you're told, hey, Sam is not going to sign a long-term multi-year deal, that's where Sam controls a lot of this, and that's his right. He should get paid. He had a great year. Good for him.
But I'd be surprised if that happened, unless it was like New York or a place he just said, I'm not going back there,
Sure.
So yeah, it'll be and that's next Tuesday, correct?
March 4th. March 4th, yes. So that's the deadline. So they'll probably, my guess is if they're going to franchise him, it'll come up to it'll be Monday or Tuesday. Yeah. And if they're not, they'll just say, hey, we'll still try and sign him back. I mean, this is playing out so much like the Kirk thing. It's scary. Yeah. It's the exact same playbook.
Yeah. You take it right up to the deadline and just see what, you don't go down that path until you absolutely have to. So I would imagine Monday or Tuesday, like you said, that we'll get the news on that.
Yeah. So topic number 2, interesting hire yesterday.
Yeah.
Keith Carter. So the Vikings assistant offensive line coach, a guy by the name of Sean Surratt, I believe is the pronunciation, has joined the Jacksonville staff. So he's gone. So O'Connell goes out and hires a guy by the name of Keith Carter as his assistant offensive line coach to Chris Cooper. Carter spent 2 years as the Jets O-line coach, and before that, 5 years as the Titans coach. And O'Connell basically said, yeah, he's sort of rough around the edges. I think he'll be fine as the assistant offensive line coach. A story then was out, I believe it was from exactly a year ago, about some players with the Jets and the Titans both saying he's a slave driver. We don't like him, blah, blah, blah. What is your thoughts there? Because this does seem a little bit like an un-O'Connell thing, but I think there might be a strategy here.
It felt like a very un-O'Connell thing. And it was interesting. I read Seifert's quote because O'Connell did that on the side session with the beat writers down there. That wasn't on the main podium there, but Seifert had a quote. He's like, yeah, you may read some stuff about him being a little rough or having some issues with so I'd never heard of the guy. So I went and Googled him, and it sounds like both Titans players and Jets players were pretty vocal.
Yeah, didn't like him.
Not liking his coaching style, and that didn't communicate well. I think I read one place. What was O'Connell's thing? Said, yeah, having him in the number 2 role, I think will be better suited. So, I don't know. I mean, maybe he's learned a lesson. Maybe maybe the number 2, the logic will. But it felt like, and not that they don't have coaches that coach hard or get on guys, but when you have a track record where 2 teams are basically guys are saying, yeah, no thanks.
Yes,
it'll be interesting to see. Well, put it this way: if there's any issues, you can't say you're surprised. You forfeit that right. You forfeit to say, well, we didn't see this coming.
Here's my question, though. Is this done with because he is the assistant to the head offensive line coach, Chris Cooper? Do you think this is done with an intent? Because you know what? If you want one group of people to be snarly, mean, to be like challenged, offensive line and especially the interior guys, right?
Yeah.
Like, because O'Connell, he definitely tried to, as much as was possible in 2024, toughen up training camp. And I felt like it worked for a while. It certainly did not work by the end of the season. Do you think it's a little bit intentional?
Well, 2 things. Like when O'Connell said that to the writers, like, there may be some stuff back. I just assume he had a relationship with the guy, like you've seen that before where I know the guy and he's had, a bad ending somewhere else and I'll bring him into the fold, whatever. It could be your theory, but that can backfire on you. It can backfire.
Oh yeah. We've seen that before.
It can backfire. Now there might be something to it because O'Connell was asked about the O-line like right away yesterday. And he was clear. He said, I don't think I said replace when he talked about we need to get better at that spot. He said, I don't think I used the word replace, which tells me that, maybe it's not. I think we all think, okay, just get 3 new interior linemen. That's probably not going to be the case.
Right.
But they've got to figure out a way to be better, Judd. And if coaching them different, ruffling some fat, I don't know, make them a little bit nastier, make them hate the, there might be some psychology in play here, Judd, that's
what I'm
we're
curious.
Not aware of the motivation, but I don't know. But it's always interesting when you make a move and a guy starts defending what happened previously right away. It's like, you're gonna do Google and you're gonna find some things, but trust me on this. So I mean, that's first when he said that. When I saw a quote, first thing I did was Google the guy. I'm like, well, what the heck happened? And then you see that, and you're like, okay, I mean, it's not like it happened at one place. This was 2 teams that guys were saying.
And there was some pretty insulting stuff, like about safety and stuff like that. So, like, I found that to be intriguing. Now he it's not like that's going to be his room in Carter's case.
Right. Yeah.
But I thought, O'Connell doesn't accidentally make this hire. And to your point, he doesn't come out and say, hey, you're going to find, it's not like, oh man, I didn't know this about Keith Carter. So I just found it to be intriguing.
It's intriguing. But I mean, you look at it, you got some pretty established guys in there, Brian O'Neill and Christian Darrisaw.
I don't think it's for the tackles, Chip. I think
I know it's for the interior. It's for the interior, but you gotta. I don't know. You can't just say, "Well, we're not going to talk to the tackles, but we're going to beat the heck out of the interior guy." I don't know, but Judd, there's clearly some motivation with this. When you're taking a guy who has had troubles or had the, things come up in 2 previous things, there's some motivation that he has an idea about how it's going to work. So, we'll see.
Snot's going to be coming out of the nose. They're going to be
breathing
spitting.
fire. Yeah.
They're going to be, exactly right. They're going to be what offensive linemen should be, which is nasty SOBs.
Yeah. Maybe it works.
It's interesting.
But didn't you find it? It's like, well, I didn't say replace.
Yeah. Well, you know what, too? I mean, Kevin,
that's games.
Just say it. Just say it. Now, I'm with you. I will stand by my point from before. I do not think they're going to replace 3 guys. That's a lot. But I think two of the 3, 2 guards. I could see that.
Yeah, I agree.
And it's okay. Like you were bad for a reason, Kevin.
What you said right after the game was your true feelings.
Exactly. It's like
vulnerable,
drinking.
You're right.
It's like drinking. When you drink, you might say the truth sometimes, right? Like that. That's how you felt. And I got no problem with it.
That's right.
It was intriguing. The thing that I want though, Chipper, is this. I want Carter to be an intense coach who drops F-bombs in training camp. I miss those coaches.
Offensive line coaches are those guys, right?
I know, but like the Vikings in the last, O'Connell, you don't have. I mean, go back to our time covering Childress' staff, right? Bieniemy was laying into Adrian constantly. Yeah. Special teams coaches were out of control. Like I like Puggett. Those guys. Fred Puggett. Yeah, blow me up a damn linebacker. Would somebody blow me up a linebacker?
Well, you generally have your 2 line coaches, right? You want your defensive line coach and your offense. They're the ones that are going to, create that kind of culture of nastiness, and we're going to, run through walls, and we're going to be the most physically tough. And so training camp will be fun. Maybe he'll drop the F-bombs, roll out across the.
That's what I want.
That the kids in the stands will hear. Yeah.
Not nearly enough F-bombs at training camp since the move to TCL. I want more F-bombs in training camp.
Yeah. Well, do they hit enough in practice to get that?
They were a little more physical last. I mean, they can't. Yeah. They can't consistently. But I'm saying, like now in 2025, if the standard's not met, I want F-bombs. There's a standard to meet. That's what we're talking about. What's the standard?
Individual positions when they're going against the blocking sleds. I just
exactly. You don't F and meet the standard. You should hear about it.
I know where Judd Zolga is going to park himself on day 1 of training camp. He's going to be right by the
with the phone going, my man. I want to get that out as soon as possible. I got a video
for you.
I got to get that out as soon as possible. I miss those days. Those were fun. The heat.
Those are always great. I know.
The hitting back
makes you crazy. Yeah.
Yep. Football coaches being football coaches. I mean, there's some good stuff.
Wouldn't you want to be on the group text with the lineman yesterday when you saw that?
Oh. WTFs, you think?
Because linemen talk. They have friends on those other teams that they know, or they work out partners or whatever. So it might have been get ready.
Well, here's my question too, off that point. Could this now cash is king, so probably not, but could this impact like this guard class is a decent class?
Yeah.
Could a veteran guard say like, hell no, I'm not going to go play for that guy? I don't think so.
No, cash is king. That's always still number 1. And so, plus, if you're getting that kind of pay bump that they're going to give, I think that you're just like, okay, you can yell all you want. I'm fine. I'm good here. So,
yeah. Or I'll meet the standard too. Like that's the thing.
That's it.
Like if you meet the standard, then you're probably not going to get sworn at. If you don't, you probably are.
But part of it too is just like how much of it's not good enough at those positions. So if they got to improve, they got to get better. It's like, you got to go find just better players there. I mean, I don't think you scream at them and make them be better. I don't think.
No, but I also think that especially the interior O-line, Chipper, I also think that yes, you're right, but don't you think there's also that some of these guys, for instance, Steve Hutchinson, he was Pro Bowl Hall of Famer, but he was nasty, man.
Oh, he would rip your head off.
He'd rip your head off on Sundays.
Yeah.
And I don't know that the current crop of interior guys here have that sort of like just that edge, which I love.
Well, Hutch was the perfect combination of great talent, great fundamentals, and just a mean, nasty player that took no gruff, and he wasn't going to let a guy beat him. So,
right.
Like they say, guys like that are superstars. Not everybody has all three.
But I like the mean thing.
Yeah.
I like that.
I mean, yeah. If you could have talented and mean, like really talented and mean, perfect. But a lot of it, I think size, I think strength, that's part of, some of the meanness in there too. But I just think they have to get better there at, along those lines. And so, I've been debating going back and forth whether I think they should make the big splash in free agents on I don't say Steve Hutchinson because he's Hall of Famer, an ass-kicking offensive guard or an ass-kicking defensive tackle.
I've done the same.
I go back and forth because I like today I lean defensive tackle. Tomorrow I might say offensive guard.
I've gone back and forth. Here's the only thing I'll say about this draft class. It's really deep at defensive tackle.
That's it. Yeah. So if you're going to invest it, you go. Yeah.
But that being said, if you can get a known commodity, you'd love to do them both in some way, shape, or form. Now that depends on what type of player you're trying to sign. If you're signing Trey Smith, guess what? You're probably you're not tapped out completely, but you're certainly tapped out to a certain degree. If you're going to sign, a couple of just really solid guards and then potentially try. So, but I've had the same problem because the playoffs showed us that, right? Like the playoffs were a tutorial in what the Vikings lacked.
And that's it. It's like part of me is looking and what the Eagles did to Kansas City and Mahomes with that front, not having a blitz and just, making one of the best quarterbacks of all time look so rattled and looking like where's the pass rush coming? Man, if you can do your best to replicate that and not have to blitz all the time, and you have two really good rush ins and then just a force in the middle, man, you got something there, But you got to fix the interior offensive line. I mean, we've seen that too,
I know.
I know.
Well, it feels like you can. So Brian Flores has done a marvelous job. And it feels like, throughout the course of the season, you can definitely scheme up game plans and stuff like that. But it also feels like when you get to the playoffs, that only can go so far. So to your point, I can give you looks all year long and through week 15 or so, they might work. But the reality is when we get on the precipice and into the playoffs, your point stands.
You're facing teams that have fewer and fewer deficiencies and weaknesses. So, you can scheme up if a team has a bad interior or a bad right guard or bad right tackle, whatever. Right. But when you're facing teams that are, the upper echelon, they have fewer weaknesses, and so that's where in a lot of cases it just becomes your talent versus their talent, and so you saw it in the Super Bowl. The Eagles just overwhelmed them up front on defensively. So I'm fascinated, man, with free agency. That first
and you got money
24, 48 hours to see. We'll see what the game plan starts to look like, what their vision is for fixing, their issues. Well, really, it'll start coming into play next week, I think, when we find out what they're going to do with Darnold,
Yeah. I don't think I've ever heard them, though, since they got the job in 2022, Kwesi and Kale. I don't think I've ever heard them talk about meat and potatoes football as much as they currently are, right? Yeah. Like interior line play and things like that. I think they're finally convinced that if that doesn't get addressed, they're not going to win when it matters most.
Yeah, well, they've talked a lot about culture and collaboration and all those things, but it's obvious. They put their cards on the table right after the season, saying, "Hey," and you just look at the teams that were remaining and how they were built. Look at the Eagles. Look at the Lions.
Yeah.
They're built from inside out, and like that's the formula, And so I think it's pretty obvious, but the fact that they're addressing it, and it's now they just have to put the plan in place to be able to do it, right?
Well, right, and you got to go get those guys, and you've got the money to do it.
Yeah,
like that's the thing is you've got you now for the first time, and to their credit, without a ton of cap space, a year ago in March they signed a marvelous class, but you now have the ability to compete on day one with splash signings, and so that becomes the big question.
That's it. Like you can go get that marquee guy now. You have the money. Where in the past you have to like figure out, and Grenard was and Van Ginkel. I don't know if they, they were headline guys, but I'm talking about that Steve Hutchinson type of signing where it's like we're going to get the one or two best guard, we're going to get the one or two best defensive tackle on the market, and we're going to say, you know what, we're paying out a big time salary here.
You know the tell, Chipper? The tell is this. It's very simple. The tell is last year press conference. Grenard, Van Ginkel, Blake Cashman, same table, same presser.
Yeah,
the marquee guy go alone.
That's right.
The marquee guy gets his own press conference.
He gets the limo ride from MSP to
Trey Smith. He ain't going to be sitting at a table with four other guys.
That's right. That's right. He gets his own day.
You get your press release. We're going. The Vikings have a major announcement. You show up. There's a chair for the owner. There's a chair for the GM. There's a chair for the coach, and there's a chair for the guy that you just signed. Ain't nobody else in the chair. And a jersey. Yeah. The photo op. That's how you know.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
That's how you know. But before we go, did anything else from Kwesi or KO in the press conferences pique your interest?
Nothing that I jumped out at as an overly newsy that tipped their hand more than that. I mean, so much as obviously was revolved around a quarterback position, but yeah, I mean, for not having many draft picks, this is a huge week for them in Indy. A
lot of good stuff too. There's the rumor mill now is so great. Like it always has to be. It always used to be okay, but I feel like in the last 5 years or so, this has gone from it's about the draft, but we're going to talk about the teams too.
Well,
it's about the teams, and we'll talk about the draft a little bit.
Yeah, it's less about the draft and more about roster construction.
Correct.
That tends to be the focus, at least of those. The press conferences have been also, because let's be honest, if you ask O'Connell or Kwesi about the running back class, or they're like, we're just in the beginning stages of the process, they're not going to give you clarity, and that's probably true, right? I mean, I don't think O'Connell has done a deep dive on the left, point. The linebackers yet.
So you're saying you think the Darnold decision has been made? No way.
That's right. That's right. So it has become the point to talk about roster construction and your how you're going to free agency and the guys you're going to keep. So I'm excited, man. I love that. I love the silly season. I love the silly season.
March, April are so, and then what's great is now, May used to be dead, but now it's the start of the camps.
Yeah.
So the next 3 months or so are just absolutely fantastic.
We got all the content we need, right?
I know. It's just great. You got more, you might have more content now than you do in week 8. It's absolutely incredible.
I know.
All right, Chipper, talk to you next week. I'm sure that there will be plenty more to speculate on, and perhaps, or we should know what the plan is with Darnold by then. So talk to you then.
See you then.
All right, bye.